the workshop on marketing wine to millennials. And we have three panelists. My name is Barbara Insel. I'm the president and CEO of Stonebridge Research. And I will moderate. I'll do a quick introduction of the topic and the individuals, and then they will, in turn, first Emily, then Alessandra, and then Steve do their presentations. Thank you. Okay, I was asked earlier this week, there was a bit of upset. I live with wine data and wine research. That everybody was terribly upset about the Silicon Valley Bank report that the U.S. wine market, as we know it, the sky is falling and life is ending. So I decided to do 2 slides to explain why that's not true, and then we'll talk about millennials. And basically, the market is not declining. It's just that American wine consumers are drinking differently, and in different ways that actually benefit everyone in this business here. So first of all, be careful of the data you look at. So this is my mantra all the time. Most data that you read on the wine market is scan data, is grocery store data. So if you're not selling your wine in grocery stores, and only about 30% of all the wine in the U.S. is sold in grocery stores, it has nothing to do with you. So IRI, Nielsen, nothing to do with you. Silicon Valley Bank, their customers are boutique California wineries, and then they go out to the Central Valley to talk to the other folks. That's a tiny percent of the U.S. wine market. And wine sales volume is not wine sales value data. So remember, any official U.S. data is always volume. The U.S. government and states do not track value. They only have excise taxes on volume. So, and then finally, California wine sales, which is most of what people talk about where I come from in California, is not the U.S. market, or you all wouldn't be here. And if you look at, something to remember as you're dealing with all the programs you've been here, the U.S. wine market, wines under certainly $6, probably $8, are 60% of U.S. volume, but actually haven't gone anywhere and probably declined by a couple points for the last 15 years. The only time wines in that price segment have increased was 2009, and we all know why that happened. The core of the U.S. market is $8 to $15, and that's creeping up to $20. And then there's a jump from $20 to really above $50. And then there's another jump to $75, with not much in between. Wines over, so 40% of the, 60% of the volume is under $8 or less. Another 30%, 35% is 8 to 15 or 8 to 20. Only about something between 5 and 10% of the U.S. wine market is wines more than $15. That, however, is more than 30% of the dollar value of sales in the U.S. And that 8 to 15 segment, creeping up to 20, is at least 40% of U.S. wine sales. That's the heart of the U.S. market, and it's the fastest and has been the fastest growing part of the U.S. market for the last 15 years, except for 2009. So that's what's happened, and this affects all of you, is American wine consumers are discovered in the recession when they downsized, downpriced, that there's a lot of great wine from all over the world, including Italy, France, Spain particularly. A lot of new wines coming out, great tasting. They taste as good as a $40 California wine, and they're $15. So they are not drinking the $40 and $60 California wines. They aren't drinking California wines that small brands, new brands, highly expensive. They're finding great values from Europe. A lot of it coming in as direct imports. As a result, California's lost about 5 points of market share, which is really what that whole SVB thing was about. So the real challenge to the U.S. wine market is craft spirits and cocktails. There's a lot, if you talk to the on-premise market, a lot more people are having a cocktail and a glass of wine instead of a bottle of wine. And that varies. Craft beer, much less so, because it often is a different demographic, a different customer group. And the marketing by craft spirits has been remarkably good. So, plus you're dealing with the saturation of a market which is moving most of the chain restaurants, chain hotels, the value-priced hotels, look at the Hilton wine list, to the large volume wine producers, both primarily U.S. but also international if they're imported in volume. One of the exceptions being Kimpton. So you're seeing a divergence and restructuring of the U.S. wine market, but U.S. wine consumption is not going down. Now, back to millennials. Who are they? 53.5 million Americans born between 1961 and 1997, as according to the Pew Trust, one of the best data sources in the U.S. It's the largest single generation in American history. It's basically the kids of the baby boomers. The majority of this set group has now reached legal drinking age of 21. So they are really having an impact on the wine market. How do they think? Community is enormously important to them. Friends, real ones and online ones. They ignore conventional advertising, but they love information. They suck it up, usually from their phones. Highly visual, images, video. They want to understand how things work, where things come from, how they're put together. And they want to feel, and any of you employ any millennials, they want to feel they're having an impact on the world, that they're part of the world. And they want experiences, preferably group experiences. With wine, they will try anything. If it's in their price segment, which tends to be under 20, in New York and San Francisco, where there's a lot of tech money, maybe under 25, mostly by the glass. So, and some by the glass is going up to 25, but certainly up to 15. But in bottles, that mid-price segment, they can't afford classics. They don't collect wine, but then what millennial ever has? They're anxious to learn. They do research, they ask questions, but they also travel more. They're much more comfortable with foreign things coming from other countries than earlier generations. And as this is all coming from our Wine Trade Monitor research. And it's a wonderful quote. One of my favorites was that they apply the same geekiness to wine that they do to everything else they do. So, you know, they're instant wine geeks. They're more informed, and they're utterly agnostic about grape and region. And they're really into food. So they're more into wine they could have with food. They're into where their food comes from, and they want something ready to drink. And you can read the rest of this. I don't want to delay the rest of the panel. But this is the group you have to worry about cocktails and craft cocktails and spirits with. And don't ignore women in craft spirits. So, our panel. Emily Wines is wine director for Kimpton Hotels, which she will tell you more about. It's a major boutique hotel chain across the U.S. And Emily will talk about how millennials are shaping the wine industry, both as consumers and as sommeliers. So Emily goes first, then Alessandra Rotondi. And Alice, I don't know how to describe you, Alessandra.
Yeah, I will.
She will describe herself. Okay. And Steve Ray and Alessandra were talking about using social media to build your brands. And Steve Ray, who's president of Bevology, will talk about online destination wine sites and how millennials are using them to learn about and buy wine. So Emily goes first. Thank you.
All right. So I'm the wine director for Kimpton Hotels and Restaurants. I say and restaurants because that's a very important part of what our brand is as well. And our restaurants have gone through a lot of really major changes in the last 15 years. And this is really shaped by this generation. It used to be that our restaurants were, or our bars were a place that were more of a kind of a holding area for people who were about to go into the restaurant. It was more of an amenity to the restaurant. And then we started to see this real change happening where we found that the bar was starting to become more of the destination. And in fact that our younger diners wanted to, they wanted to have that bar experience in other places beyond just the bar. And we didn't really look closely at millennials at the hotel side yet, because quite frankly, millennials can't afford to stay in our hotels, but they are definitely drinking in our bars and eating in our restaurants. And so we started to expand the footprint of the bar, adding in more tables to that area, starting to create more of a bar-like environment in the rest of the restaurant by getting rid of tablecloths, going with more small plates, more of this sort of choose-your-adventure style of dining, which really speaks to millennials on all fronts. And so one of the things that you see a lot of in our restaurants now is by the glass options that are a lot more flexible, a lot more adventurous. We certainly still have the fighting varietals. You can't do a by the glass list really without Cabernet and Chardonnay and Riesling and all of those, but you have to have some adventurous things, some quirky wines, and these are the things that these younger people are really gravitating to. By the glass selections have gotten bigger for us as well. Most millennials, in fact, in the Wall Street Journal, Letty Teague says that when asked if they would buy, if they would try a new bottle or something by the glass that they'd never heard of before, 86% said that they would. This is really different from their parents, who tend to be really set in their way of drinking. They like Chardonnay, that's all they want. They want their Pinot Grigio, they want their Scotch on the rocks, they know their brand. And it's not to say that millennials won't eventually become like that once they discover what they want, but they are really thriving on the sense of discovery at this point. Cocktails certainly are a really big factor in my world these days. It's true. Millennials are really enthusiastic about cocktails, and part of that really is fed by this sense of discovery. But it's exciting too to see that they are embracing this in wine as well. As drinkers in general, they don't want to drink what mom drinks. What does that mean to Italian producers? Pinot Grigio might start to take a big dip with this generation. These are the guys who want to try grapes that nobody's ever heard of, unique emerging regions. They want authenticity in the biggest way. They really hate being marketed to, and certainly people are finding ways to market to them and create brands that appeal to them, but they're really suspicious of it. They see right through marketing. They don't like... They don't trust really slick design, and this has affected us on the restaurant side and in how we design things. And like all of our restaurants have a lot of thought that goes into them, lots of designers involved, but if we find that if the restaurants look too slick, it really turns off these young consumers. They want places that look like it was kind of like off the cuff, just kind of slapped up. We didn't even bother to paint the walls kind of place. And this is how they like their wine and spirits as well. They like these things that look like they were handcrafted, uniquely produced, whether they are or not. They are really not into reading scores or glossies, which I think is really exciting. This is a generation that doesn't want other people to tell them what to drink. They more trust what their friends tell them is good. And the other thing that's really interesting about this generation that's very different from my generation anyway is the way that they drink at home. My generation was the one that I had the bottle of vodka in the freezer, and that was good to go for entertaining. These younger people tend to be more into curating their own collections. Certainly not collecting wines in the way that older generations do, but having unique finds, things that they've discovered and come up with. For me, on the restaurant side, when it comes to training these young people, because certainly millennials make up the vast majority of our staff, it's really exciting to see how knowledgeable they are. They're really saturated with information. A lot of these young waiters are coming to trainings already having a pretty good language for wine to start out with, which is a very new thing for me. They respond really well to stories. It's not just about telling them this is the wine and this is how to sell it, but giving them the stories that make them really want to embrace it that much further. The really interesting side to see as well is with young sommeliers. When I started out as a sommelier, I was really into the classics. It was important to me to understand what are all the great wines of the world, what are the great classic regions and classic grapes in those places, and that's what I want my wine list to be made up of. And it's been this complete reversal now with younger people. One of the reasons I think is that the way that I got my information was not only from older sommeliers and mentors, but also from books that were probably outdated by the time they even got into my hands. Younger sommeliers have so many resources, and by and large, the place that they're studying is not only with their peers, but from the internet. There's so much information. They can learn about every new thing that's happening in the world of wine instantly. So they're incredibly well informed, but on the other hand, they tend to step away from the classics, and I think this is sort of the dangerous place that they go to, where they start to think that the classics are boring. Everybody knows about those regions and those wines, and they're not putting them on their lists. So the amount of times I've gone to a restaurant and had some young sommelier pour for me something, and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome! I just found this wine. It's made by these monks on this mountainside. They only make 24 cases, and I got 2 of them." And you taste it, it's like, God, this could take the enamel off my teeth. And they're excited about it more for the story than anything else. amount of mediocre wine out there currently that's being sold on the back of a story is a bit astounding. And they are looking for the strange, and there are some interesting wines. And it was interesting, Jancis Robbins said that sommeliers in New York tend to run in packs, which is so true. You know, one of them finds some really quirky, offbeat wine, they put it on their list, and next thing you know, you see it popping up everywhere. So yeah, so this is a bit of a pitfall for this generation, and it's my hope that they start to embrace more of the classics again as well. They love that sense of discovery, not just for things that are new and unique, but also things that are historic, maybe things that were forgotten about and being rediscovered. So it's important that wineries that are out there know this about these young consumers, and that this is a way to really appeal to them. It's not all grim though, because on the other side, what's happening is that wine lists are really opening up. You're finding a lot of really exciting wines showing up on wine lists. It used to be that a broad global list, you'd go to the Italian section, and there'd be some Super Tuscan, some Barolo and Pinot Grigio, and not much else. And now you go to those lists and you look at them, and there's all these really dynamic wines coming from really unique parts of Italy, and they're embracing varietals that consumers have never heard of, which is really fabulous. So I think it leaves a lot of room for wines off the beaten trail, and brings their enthusiasm for a sense of exploration to the rest of the wine world.
So my name is Alessandra Rotondi. The reason why Barbara couldn't tell who I am is because I'm too many things. I do too many activities in the wine business, but not only in the wine business. I'm a sommelier, I'm a buyer for restaurants, I am a consultant for restaurants or private client. What else? And I write for Italian media about wine, food, lifestyle, because they are very well connected together. And I use a lot social media. I mean, I live online, even though I'm not a millennial. But I use a lot all the social networks, so like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And actually, the main subject of my speech is going to be millennials and the use of the social media. First of all, millennials, we all know who millennials are, but since in my speech I will refer also to other people, baby boomers and Gen X or Generation X. So baby boomers, just for those who don't know, are those who were born after the Second World War, and Generation X is whoever is before 50, 55, and then all the others over the drinking age until 34, they are millennials. I'm surprised that we have only 2 millennials maybe here in the audience, but this seminar is more how to market wine to millennials. So it's better to know those who are not millennials, how to market wine to.
No speaking your language.
Yeah. So millennials, they grow up in the age of technology, and online everything, everyone is accessible. It was not like that before. So wineries, and all my speech is going to be addressed mostly to wineries, how to market to millennials. So wineries are hoping to steal large market shares, need to be very smart over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. When I say Instagram, it's not just making a picture of a glass of wine, because think of how boring it can be a picture of a glass of wine. It's just red, white, sparkling, or rosé. There is nothing to describe. And so most likely we will be interested, but there will be no comments, no exposure. It's more important using pictures that give the vibe, the hip of the atmosphere of a winery. Social media are important not only for wineries, but they are important also for restaurants and wine stores. For instance, one big user of social media here in New York as a wine store is Sherry Lemon, that is on Park Avenue. We know that is the oldest wine store here in New York, but is not a call to action platform, even though you are very strong online, it doesn't mean it doesn't drive to immediate sales, but create the atmosphere, gives all the tips to millennials how to know how to get into the wine knowledge. And so we have to think also the importance of the social media is because millennials go to almost 3 nights per week, or let's say 2 nights per week, or 5 nights per week to bars and also microbreweries because they are close to where they live, but a winery is very far from where they live. So wineries need to create something in order to capture their attention because they are located very far. We are in New York. The closer winery is in Long Island, but think of someone who doesn't live in New York, who lives in the middle of the United States, and the closest one is Napa, but Napa is very far. So all those who are living in Sonoma and Napa, they have to give all the tips in order to make like a journey possible, a dreaming journey possible, a virtual and ideal journey possible through the social media. We already know about numbers. Again, one more time, according to my data, only 23% of wine by volume in US in 2015 has been drunk by millennials. But what is more important, only 17% of the millennials care about what a wine columnist say. So whatever I've done before, forget about it because they don't read any longer my column. And that's why all the printed magazines are going down. Whoever, it's not because they are, it's just the way it is. And in fact, only 22% they subscribe to a print wine magazines, while the Generation X is 41%. But what is more important is that 61% in the last month commented on wine on Facebook. And 72% have posted a photo on Facebook or Pinterest in the last month. Okay, in all this, in the social media, Twitter seems to be the biggest one. I mean, seems to play a bigger role than Facebook. Why? Because Twitter is very short, it's very fast. So you have only 140 words, I mean letters, to be used. And so you have to be, Twitter right now is like WhatsApp. What is the difference between Twitter and WhatsApp? Well, WhatsApp is just the two of us sharing information. You can even create a group, but it's going to be a group of 20 people, no more than that. Twitter, you have the instant reply, who is sharing your information. So you have the impression, you want to be connected with your friends and talk about wine and know right away what your friends are thinking about wine because they are more interested in what their friends are saying over what Robert Parker is saying. So, give me 1 second. So Twitter is becoming the most popular method of online marketing for many wineries because you have the impression to be sitting in a tasting room. But before starting serving on Twitter, I want to show you something, and I have to go to the other computer because I have the link to the other computer. In this very moment, what's going on Twitter with the wine? Give me 1 second. The Gmail.
No.
Okay, link and photo, yep.
Click that.
Ah, yeah, allow. Okay, so in this very moment, this is very important. If you want to write down this information, it can be useful for the future. If you log on, if you go to hashtags.org, and then you hit analytics, and then you enter the word wine. So you have to hashtag wine. You have the instant view of what's going on in your zone. Now we have the time zone, America, Chicago. And this is what happened in the last 24 hours, but it changes permanently. So, for instance, the best moment to tweet about wine, according to this diagram, when was it? It was yesterday, 5 p.m. We had a peak of tweet at 5 p.m. and then not bad at 9 p.m. Nothing happened, of course, at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and then again 9 a.m. and when it's lunchtime. So anytime that you want to start a campaign, you have to remember that this information can be useful because you have to think also, what is the right moment, what is the right time to post a tweet? And then if we go at the bottom of the information, you have all the prolific users. And this is important because you want to connect with them, even though you don't know them. But maybe these Hanu, Harjumas, or Juma, whatever, and then these Snotful, wine tweeters, Selcop, which winery, Movimento Positivo, Wine World, Wine Guru, Italian Wine something, Michelle Williams, they are prolific users. And the recent tweets is, for instance, Toledo Wines and Vines, a new post, drone launches wine, light in search. So they are, it's a word. It's completely unpredictable, but it's very important if you want to be very smart on Twitter that you log on hashtags.org and then analytics, and then you you enter the hashtag wine, you have the instant image of what's going on Twitter. Give me 1 second. So now, quick tips, I think 5 quick tips that will be useful also for tweeting. First of all, know your customer. Know your customer because you have to remember, if you are a winery, you will be expecting visitors, right? Those visitors, either if you are in the United States, in Italy, wherever, most likely you will be receiving as guests upper middle class and educated folks. So since you know that that will be coming educated folks, please make sure that the person behind your Twitter account or your Instagram account is someone who knows how to reply, what is the hashtag, the most popular hashtag to use, and how to provoke a discussion. Hashtag is the second quick tip. You have to use the right hashtag. Wine, of course, wine hashtag is the most used. But since it's so generic, maybe it's not the most powerful because it's like entering into a huge building using the main door. But you don't know what else. You don't know where to go because it's too big. Okay, wine is really... Actually, the tweets about wine are really impressive because they are 11,000 per day, times per day. But it's much better if you use, for instance, as a hashtag, wine lover. Because a wine lover is not only an hashtag, it's like entering into a community, into someone who is not necessarily a wine critic, a wine expert, it's just a wine lover. Now, in this very, currently, millennials, they work online. They do not clock in, they do not clock out. Everything is online. They are kind of a freelance of everything. And so, the most important bloggers about wine are not wine bloggers, are maybe photographers, artists, writers, or whoever is working in finance, and they are also wine lovers. So you address to everybody. Then there is, I know. There is another hashtag that is very popular and is very weird, and is hashtag Wine Wednesday. Yeah, in Italian would be Vino Mercoledì. Why Wine Wednesday? It has been created by Twitter, and it has a huge success. Over 30,000 tweets about Wine Wednesday every month, all concentrated on Wednesday. The reason why it was Wednesday, maybe because in the past years, Wednesday was considered the day where, for instance, the New York Times published the in a printed copy the food and wine page, and whoever has been in the wine and restaurant business know that Wednesday for us, for buyers, is very important because we read all the reviews by Eric Asimov, Frank Bruni, and also Wednesday is important because it's in the middle of the week, but in the restaurant business is a very crucial day because people come back to have dinner because nothing happens on Sunday, nothing on Monday, nothing on Tuesday, but on Wednesday, the open table, wow, it's a lot of reservation. So Wine Wednesday is crazy if you use it as an hashtag. And then there are so many others like Sonoma Chat or Wine Chat. Sonoma Chat, if you want to promote your winery and you are in Italy and you are located in the Barolo area, call it Barolo, but you can also enter into other conversation of those who are producing, for instance, Chianti. It's not mandatory to use the same. Then there is another, it's not an hashtag, it's an account that is Vivino. And Vivino is really important because it's an application that you can download. And I will talk about Vivino in a few seconds. And then, so remember we were talking about the quick tip. The third one is find your fans. There are so many channels that you can use. In Twitter is very important. Inbox queue is, like I said, inbox queue, because inbox queue comes in the form of a free browser plugin for Firefox and Google Chrome, and will automatically keep tabs on people who mention your brand. So you will be permanently, you will know permanently who is looking for you through inbox queue. When you start a campaign, all you do is enter the keywords you want, and then Inbox Queue will deliver questions asked on Twitter that are using the keyword. You can also use it to find people looking for answers. Then, quick tip number 4, if you are a company, be a person, not a business. If you are a company like Marchesi and Tinori, I know that you don't need Twitter because you are already very important. But if you want to use Twitter, it's better if you do like using the account of Alessia and Tinori than Marchesi and Tinori, because Alessia and Tinori can post Twitters also about her children, her beautiful blue eyes, and so it's better to interact with a human being than known with a generic winery. And then remember, build the final quick tip, build your brand, not your wallet. Do not try to sell something on Twitter or using the social media because it's not fair. Create your fans, create your followers, and then they will come to you asking about wines to be for purchase. And then, again, Instagram is very important. Rather than posting pictures of a glass of wine that is very boring, post a picture of a sunset into a vineyard, something that reminds the atmosphere, the family who is creating that. And so even the most boring malolactic fermentation can be very exciting. Connect with people, use the combination of lifestyle, combine wine with everything, with fashion, with everything, not only wine. Be creative. Do contests. It's very important. For instance, Castello Amorosa in Italy did a contest about pictures on Instagram. The prize was nothing. The best picture would have been posted on Instagram as well, so with a great exposure for that. And also this is a secret also, when you use your social, reciprocate favor. If someone likes your post or your picture, reciprocate and share it, retweet it, repost it, mention the account that posted, and so it's gonna be very diplomatic way to be connected. For Instagram, one more time, if you are a winery and you are expecting visitors, ask those visitors to give you, to tag them. So if you tag them, they will tag you. And so, again, a lot of exposure.
Alessandra?
Yep.
I think we have to wrap up, so Steve has a chance. So why don't we come back?
I'm almost done, yeah. And I
Okay.
will come back later with just a few more things, and I'm done. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Steve Ray. I'm president of a marketing consulting company, and we specialize in, well, I say a number of areas. That doesn't mean we specialize, but in helping offshore wineries who want to come to the U.S. market to understand it and learn how to navigate the complexities of it. So what I'm going to talk about today is less of the how-to, which is great information, and more of the structure of the market and how it's changing. And Emily made a point earlier, which I thought was really great. She was saying that millennials don't want to be marketed to. I think a very simple way of thinking about it is we need to be marketing with them. And that's what this whole concept of engagement is all about, and not hard sell and so forth. Everybody knows there's commerce going on, and there's the effort to influence somebody else. But if you do it in a way that's engaging and participative, you're going to get much more receptivity from those people. So I want to talk about three things particularly about trends that are happening in the market. One is about purchasing, two is about authorities, and the third is about apps. You mentioned Divino. A couple of points on purchase. What we're finding is tremendous growth in e-commerce, but underneath the fact of that's where or how people are buying, it's why they are buying and how differently they are buying. Case in point, generally imports in America represent about 27% of the total market. On wine.com, which is the largest pure play e-commerce retailer, 53%, double, is imported wines. So were I an imported winery, one of the things I'd really be focusing on is e-commerce. There's another reason too. Let's say you're only in New York, right? If you're with an e-commerce retailer in New York, then you can sell in all the states that that retailer will ship to. In some cases, there are guys in California that will ship to 40 states. Some people will even ship to Pennsylvania, which is illegal everywhere. But the point is, it's a way for you to be commercially available where you don't even have distribution. There's a lot more on that I could say, but I'm not going to. The next thing is a new evolution we've seen over the past 2 years, which I call delivery within an hour apps. So that is mini bar delivery, drink, drizzly, saucy, thirsty, things like that. And basically what that means is you can go online, you can order wine or whatever it is that you want, and it'll be delivered to your door within an hour. And that's really changing a lot of things, and retailers recognize the value of that, in that an average sale at a retail store may be $18, but an average sale from these delivery within an hour are more like $60, because they're not just buying the wine. They'll say, oh, give me a case of Bud Light, and that's what's selling. It isn't necessarily only the craft beers. So there's a dichotomy there, and it's important to recognize that.